You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Supplemental number 83. Star Trek Voyager series wrap-up with Ellie Littlechild.
Welcome into a supplemental episode of Mission Log, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Norman Lau. Each week on Mission Log, we examine an episode of Star Trek, looking for the morals, meanings, and messages. But that is not what we're doing today.
It's the classic setup, Norman. I love that. No, because today on Mission Log, we have completed our look at Star Trek Voyager in total. And it's time to take stock of our time in the Delta Quadrant.
To quote our beloved Captain Janeway, time travel. Since my first day on the job as a Starfleet captain, I swore I'd never let myself get caught in one of these godforsaken paradoxes. The future is the past is the future. It all gives me a headache. So, we're looking back at the future that was in the past, and we'll try to figure out the most essential and the most forgettable and see how it all stacks up.
You know, Norman, I'm just sorry that you didn't do Garrett doing Kate doing that line. So we may have to go back and dub that in. But well done.
It's so meta.
I know, I know. But well done, sir.
We're not up for that yet.
No. Today, of course, we are welcoming back a very special guest to help us out. It's Ellie Littlechild from TrekCulture Online. You know her videos and articles, one in particular that we will get into post haste. But first, welcome back to Mission Log. Ellie, a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me back. I'm glad I didn't say anything that annoyed anyone the last time. Enough to come back again anyway.
That's very presumptuous. Maybe you did, but we welcomed you back anyway because we were here for more of it.
We literally deleted all those social media posts that were negative. You know, that is the power that we have.
No.
Actually, we time traveled, John. So, we didn't like it. So we time traveled to the past and then we changed the present.
Went back, fixed it, just like Janeway would. You don't like the outcome. You just change everything to your liking. We are. Yeah. Ellie, what's happening right now with you with TrekCulture? What are you up to? What's new?
Do you know what? I think for a lot of the Trek world, we're in a little bit of a haze at the moment. We're in a little bit of an area where there's not a lot going on in the world of Trek. I've got a lot going on in the world of Doctor Who on WhoCulture.
Ooh, okay. Very good. Yeah.
Not so much Trek.
We were very excited about the Murray Gold season 10 drop for the soundtrack.
I am so excited. I love Murray Gold's music. It's been like a part of my life for most of my life. So I'm very excited for that to be released. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So Voyager is your favorite Trek series, if I'm not mistaken. So it seemed only right to have you back and look at the whole thing. And just so our audience knows, now we're going to get into this extremely controversial article that you wrote. So TBA here. But then we will get into some listener feedback, and then we will hear from the three of us with our essential episodes. And we'll set up what that means a little bit later. But we're going to get a little taste across the 7 seasons to see how we feel about Voyager in retrospect. And actually, Ellie, before we get to that article, please remind our audience, why is Voyager your Trek?
A lot of people know I'm a big Janeway fan, so I'm instantly sold by that character, by the performance. But I think what really sold it for me was the whole concept of them having a mission and following their journey the whole way. Like from the end of episode 1, you're watching them knowing that you're going to watch them attempting to get home the whole time. Whereas I think a lot of the other Trek, there's lots of missions that happen, there's lots of things going, but there's not necessarily a through line that from episode 1, you know what the aim of this show is. And I enjoyed watching them make progress in their journey and was waiting for them to achieve that goal by the end. I mean, if they hadn't, it would have been quite disappointing, but...
Or it could also be disappointing when they did get to the end. We might revisit that a little bit. What? Yes, Norman?
Because I know Ellie is a big Janeway fan, and anyone who follows you on social media knows that you do a lot of cosplay homages to Janeway. The one I think that's probably blew up the most was Janeway's, was it a nightgown from, was it Eye of the Needle?
Yeah, it's in a few episodes, but I think it first showed up in Eye of the Needle. Yes.
Is that a patterned cosplay, or like is it something that's so 100% authentic that you had to do it, or it's just you wanted to do something close?
Yeah, no, I just saw it and was like, do you know what that reminds me of? And so I just decided I'm going to do it. But it's one of the few costumes I've bought that I have had for quite a while and have not really had the confidence to wear. And I wouldn't necessarily... I think the only place I'd wear it in terms of a convention would be Vegas. I think there it's acceptable because people would get it. But if I was just to wear it to a normal convention that's just general sci-fi convention, I think most people would just be like, what is she wearing?
Right, right.
So, yeah, and I did a photo shoot and I needed an extra outfit. And I was like, do you know what, Ellie? Just go for it. Just wear that one.
There's a lot of you as Janeway in various guises out there, which is very cool. Definitely, you put your money where your mouth is.
Although, I would like to add, hopefully in the future, Dark Janeway from Prodigy.
Ooh.
Oh.
That was a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah, I like this plan. I like this. How do you... So, Janeway is your favorite.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with her, say, moral ambiguity? And when I say moral ambiguity, I mean like becoming her enemy in an episode like Equinox. Mm-hmm. I mean, is it Janeway all the way, or is it Janeway, but you need to get back on track here?
No, I think it's Janeway all the way, because for me, there's the human element to the character. She is on her own and she's trying her best, and we are all human. And we do make mistakes, and she has been put in a situation that means that sometimes she's going to make a mistake and sometimes she's only got herself to rely on and she might make the wrong decision. But she ultimately realizes that she does that and she learns from it. It might take people telling her that she's wrong. It might take someone like Chakotay to oppose her and for things to go wrong for her to realize that. But she's a character who is put in a position that no one else has ever been in, and she's got so much pressure on her shoulders to do the right thing all the time, and she doesn't know necessarily what the right thing is to do. And I think that's what I love to see in the exploration of the character, and what I would have hoped to have seen actually a bit more of is to see how much that affects her. We only really touch the surface on how that affects her privately. And we do see moments of that. You know, we have a Night, for example, is an episode where we start to see how that is affecting her. But in general, I think episodes like Equinox, for example, are the most interesting episodes for her character because they don't just show her making the right decision all the time. Nobody's perfect.
Note to self, Ellie would torture her enemies. Yeah.
I might do.
That's what I'm getting from that. And then fire your first officer if they can't man you. Yeah.
I'm not sure if we're listening to the same feed. I have a different interpretation of that, but
I love it. All right, well, let's do this for What Culture. And by the way, sometimes I read that to myself as what culture? What culture? For whatculture.com, you did an article about the 10 most forgettable Star Trek Voyager episodes. So looking across all 7 seasons, what inspired this article, by the way?
A joke. Okay. Because entry number 1 has the most ironic title, and I joked about it and then thought, maybe there's an article in that.
Okay.
And then I don't want to spoil what number 1 is. I'm sure we'll get to it, but it sparked something, and I thought, I suppose when you've got shows like Star Trek of old, where you've got 26 episodes and 7 seasons of that, of course there are going to be episodes that you remember more than others. So I just thought it was an interesting topic that hadn't necessarily been explored before. It's very hard when you join a company that's been running for so long to find new ideas to write about, and I was just proud of myself for thinking of something that Sean hadn't.
Sure. Right.
I had to double check my notes because I referenced all this, put this in the notes from your article, Ellie, and I wanted to make sure that I spelled the number 1 choice correctly. I'm pretty sure that I spelled Libby correctly, right? Or wrong. No, I completely misread the assignment.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah. Sorry.
Libby.
Libby is completely forgettable. Okay, all right. So, Ellie, why don't you tell us, and we'll just go in order here, your number 10 pick for the most forgettable Voyager episode.
Mm-hmm. I also want to kind of maybe caveat this because, as we mentioned before we started recording, my thoughts may have changed slightly since writing this. This was over a year ago when I wrote this.
Okay.
And ironically, because I wrote this article, I had to watch these 10 episodes quite a lot. And so now some of them are quite stuck in the memory, even though they're supposed to be forgettable. But because I had to watch them so much to be able to write about them and, give genuine reasons rather than I just don't remember that one.
Sure. Yeah, but that's absolutely fair. Yeah.
Have you done a rewatch between then and now?
Of some of them, not of all of them. And I think that's telling.
Okay.
But I think this episode number 10, I think I would keep on the list.
Okay.
Which is Alice.
Okay. Why unforgettable for you? Or sorry, why forgettable?
It's not unforgettable.
Yes, it is not unforgettable.
No, I remember we spoke about this episode the last time I was here. I just think in the grand scheme of things, it's not offering us anything new necessarily. And I will say as well, most of the entries on this list, the reason that they are forgettable is not always to do with the episode themselves, but the episodes that surround them as well, which I think is important to note. And also, it's not that they're bad episodes either. These are just the ones that kind of fly under the radar when you've got a bad episode like maybe Threshold to some people next to something that's really, Year of Hell.
You just stabbed Norman right in the heart.
Do you know what? I actually, Threshold is an episode that I do defend quite often. But just in general, that's an episode that's memorable, maybe not for the right reasons. Whereas these are episodes that are... these are episodes that just kind of float around in the middle somewhere that just don't necessarily have something really epic that happens or really memorable that happens. But yeah, for this one, I think for the most part, we were at a point with Tom Paris where we should have been seeing change in him. And it was just much of the same for him. Nothing really that shocking.
Unfortunately, I can't forget his flight suit in Alice. Like that just immediately pops to mind, but I think it's a bad episode. I really do. There's no new ground at all. It brings nothing to the character at all. I would just soon forget it, but unfortunately it's a little more memorable, maybe because it's so bad.
I think also it's sandwiched between Tinker Tenor Dr. Spy, which is one of my all-time favorite episodes of Star Trek, and Riddles on the other side, which is a really high-stakes episode for Tuvok. So when you look at those two on the either side, this is just an episode that's just a generic Tom Paris episode in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fair point to make because with Tinker Tenor, that's a step up for the Doctor's character arc, and Riddles is a step up for Tuvok's character arc. Alice isn't a step anywhere for anyone's arc.
No.
Right? So it's like... And it's because we've seen Tom this way before. It's like, oh, I'm going to ignore everything because I love cars. Okay, great. But that was the last episode that he was in like half a year ago.
Yeah.
And that's the same episode he was in like a half a year ago after that. So it's tough. I feel badly sometimes for Robbie just because he's like, oh, look at my script. Didn't I do this script before? Yeah, but we're doing it again, because we have a slot for you to act. But I acted this before. Yeah, I know, but we're getting you that episode you wanted.
Act like you still love cars. That's your it's your primary personality trait.
Act like you still love Donna.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 9.
I know this one is going to cause issues. I already know based on our discussions in the last time I was here. I know this one. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't ever apologize. No.
Number 9 is Nightingale. And I'm afraid I do have to stick by it because I still cannot remember. I was going through this list and I went, I still can't remember what happens in this episode.
Norman, thoughts?
So I also did have problems with Nightingale. I don't think it would make my list just because there's very little Harry Kim arc, content out there. The only thing that I can pair this with is, his arc with Endgame that gets retconned. So Nightingale wouldn't really matter because of his captain's training or lack thereof. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I think looking at some of the lists where like season 7 is concerned. A lot of season 7, they're great episodes, but are a little too late in the order, right? So I always have this theory. It's like, if we took season 7, flipped it and put that into season 4, then go with 7 for 5, 6, and 7, and let that bring home the story, I think that would have been really, really interesting to see, because a lot of these are like pickups of, well, we don't really have much story left, so we're going to take what we probably could have done 2 or 3 seasons ago and then pad the end. So I think that Nightingale could have been good. It's probably sandwiching, between like a couple of really other good episodes.
It is Body and Soul and Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think part of the problem with Nightingale is that there are so many instances you can point to and say, hey, isn't that the one where Harry was captain for like a minute? And that's what happens throughout at least the back half of the series. And in this one, like you just said, Norman, if you had taken this episode and thrown it into season 3 even, great. It's a learning moment for Harry. He gets the big seat, and then he doesn't quite live up to the moment, but that's okay because he's still got 4 more seasons to go for him to actually earn that role.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is one of the main things I put when I wrote the article. First of all, I did acknowledge the fact that by this point in Voyager, it had kind of become the Janeway 7 and EMH show. So when we did get, and they had the most invigorating storylines. So then when we do get to an episode where, oh, this is a Harry episode, rather than gracing him with a story that's a triumphant story or an achievement where he finally gets that promotion that fans have been waiting for this whole time, they just deliver another episode where he's put down again. And while, yes, it is a great learning moment for him, I think viewers would probably remember the episode more if it had been the episode where Harry finally gets a promotion rather than, Harry failed again.
Yeah. All right.
In a limited time frame, from seasons 1 to 7, there's growth from seasons 1 through 4. But there's not a lot of growth left at the end of final season.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
So.
Coming in at number 8.
Number 8. I'm not sure if I would keep this one on or not, but we'll see. Random thoughts.
I had to look it up.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
I think this
I
is...
literally had no random thoughts about it. I don't even remember it.
This is one of those ones where I think because I had to watch it a lot to write the article, it sticks in my brain a little bit more now. But actually, in the grand scheme of episodes, it's absolutely forgettable.
Well, but it's the one where B'Elanna is basically tried for thought crimes, right? Yeah. And which is a cool idea. And I think you could have done that in DS9. You could have done that in Next Gen. You could have done that in the original series, So it's a cool sci-fi idea, but is it really necessary here? Do we really get much out of it here? Not necessarily.
And I think what really harms this one is it was the episode that followed Year of Hell. So it's immediately overshadowed.
Yeah.
No. I love the caveat that you make for these choices because that makes a lot of sense. All of those choices make now a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why I wanted to highlight that in the introduction of the article. Like, these aren't bad episodes, but a lot of the time it's just the positioning of the episodes means that they're sandwiched between far more memorable ones, and so you're going to go, oh yeah.
Right. All right.
I can watch this episode because I watched Year of Hell like 10 times.
Right. Exactly. Let's look at number 7.
Number 7. It's not a Harry episode, I'm afraid. Alter Ego. Yeah. Again.
You remember it, Norman?
Is that the one with the giant pencils?
No. No, that was Prodigal Son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Season 3, Alter Ego. Nope.
Alter Ego is a holodeck. Well, it starts as a holodeck episode, and then basically it becomes Harry and Tuvok fighting over a holodeck character who isn't a holodeck character.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the episode that
that's a meme.
Yeah.
Are you two friends? Yes. No.
Right.
No. Yes.
But thank you for proving my point right there.
That's fair.
Need I say more?
That's totally fair.
The Harry Kim superfan in the room did not remember this episode, so I don't really need to say much more, do I?
Right.
I get it. No, I get it.
But again, I would say that there's an interesting idea at play here, just having this person, this alien entity who basically uses the technology the way that people use the internet now, has this alter ego, has this other identity. They get to interact and sort of insert themselves into other people's lives. Like, that is a provocative idea that means something now in 2025 different than it did back in 97 or 98 or whatever this episode aired. So maybe not a memorable episode, but if you went back to that core of an idea, might be able to do something memorable with it.
I do remember, like, the obviously, like, Tim's performance was great. The alien was great.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the performances were great. I just remember that there's a lot of Calto being played.
Yeah.
Harry, was obviously he's Whiplash because, hey, look, pretty girl. Must be Harry Kim's day.
Right. I also think, I did write this in the article as well. I mean, it's just very strange that you've got a kind of love triangle situation going on with Harry and Tuvok. Like,
right.
Of all the characters for that to be, it just, meh.
Tuvok's Player. That's like one of our action figures. Player Tuvok. Right. Along with Machine Gun Tuvok, Inspector Tuvok.
Finger pointing Tuvok.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to number 6.
Now, this is another one I know is going to cause problems because I remember our discussion last time. Yeah. And to be fair, this is probably one that I would change now in hindsight.
Oh, okay.
And I did write a couple of bonus entries that were on my list. They were on my short list when I wrote the article that didn't make the cut, that I might now maybe swap this with. But this is Muse.
Okay. I remember it well, and now I'm getting stabbed right in the heart, but go ahead.
Yeah. And this is an interesting one because I think with this one it depends on what kind of viewer of Star Trek you are as to whether it's memorable to you. And I think the thing with this one is it's quite a straight, thought-provoking episode and not so much an action-packed kind of episode that maybe the more general viewer would be more interested in. And I think that's why this one is more forgettable, because I think it's a really clever episode. And I was rereading what I wrote because I didn't remember what I wrote in the article, and I was like, "Oh, Ellie, you're really clever. You wrote some cool things here."
Nicely done.
But, there's not much like discernible conflict in this episode for the crew. Is more kind of metaphorical in its story. But then the irony of that is that. And there is irony in it because the whole purpose of this episode is a meta commentary on lazy writing, relying too heavily on big twists and adrenaline-fueled set pieces and things. But actually, that's exactly why this episode didn't land.
Right.
Because of the things that it's trying to criticize. But yeah, I think the sad thing about this is it made people think too much, so they switched off.
Yeah, I think your reasons are good for calling it a forgettable episode. And just to put it into context, and I think I'm sure that I mentioned this the last time that we talked, for me, I appreciated that episode all the more after watching what became one of my favorite of all Star Trek episodes, which is Prodigy, All the World's a Stage. And these two stories share so much DNA that when I had the pleasure of going back to rewatch this for our Voyager rewatch, I was like, oh yeah, of course. That's the kind of thing that they're trying to tell here. Does it land for everybody? I can fully understand why it doesn't, but I would say go back and watch it with that frame of mind, which is, hey, they're trying to do this commentary about how and why Star Trek works. And you can take that kind of storytelling and kind of plug it in anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I can see this like in The Next Generation.
Yeah.
Because it's a little fresher, I think, in that like somewhere between 1987 and like, say, 1990, when it's earlier on in The Next Generation. But it's kind of like John loves kind of like Star Trek hat on a hat, right? So it's also very, I don't know, like, that's very TOS, it's like Conscience of the King, with a little bit of a different meaning, but you're using the allegory of the play to tell the story. So yeah, it's a little bit cerebral, I think. Mm-hmm. And at this end, the Voyager is all.
Oh, you did. I wrote that the previous episode was Live Fast and Prosper, which also centered around the idea of Voyager crew members being played by somebody else, but just in a different way. But by comparison, Muse kind of went for a straight-laced approach, whereas Live Fast and Prosper was more comical in tone. So they're significantly different stories, but they also have similarities, but one's comedic and one's more cerebral, and you're more likely to remember the comedic one than the cerebral one.
I have something to confess. I pretty much steal all of my material from podcasters greater than I. So thank you very much, Ellie.
All right.
But I think it is important also, I'm just noticing as we're going through these, because this is obviously such a subjective list. And like everyone's list is going to be different, but I am noticing a theme. And I noticed the theme when I was writing it as well, because obviously you're more likely to remember episodes that focus on your favorite characters. And depending on who your favorite characters are and your favorite storylines, this list is going to be so different, because I don't think a single episode on this list is a Janeway-centric episode. Because to me,
that last time,
they're the most memorable episodes. And they might not be to somebody else, but to me, they are. So there's not really any episodes on this list that are going to be Janeway-centric. So far we've had, what? A Paris one, Harry Kim, B'Elanna, another Harry Kim.
That's one.
Okay, so
Wonder what's next.
coming in at number 5.
I'm so sorry. It's non sequitur.
It's totally fine.
Look, if Harry can forget his girlfriend, we can forget this episode. So, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do remember parts of this one, but I also don't remember the important parts of this one. I went through this list with my mum the other day when I said, I've got to go back through this article I wrote. And I said, she said, tell me the episodes. I'll tell you if I remember them. And she's not quite as into it as I am. So I read them all, and she did remember quite a lot of them. And I was like, oh, maybe this list isn't quite so good. After I'd explained, it was the one where this happened, and oh yeah, I remember that one. But this one, I remember like the basic elements of, oh, Harry wakes up and he's back at home and what's going on. But I'm like, why was he back at home? What was the plot of this episode?
Right.
That's where I kind of lose it a little bit. Don't really remember what's going on.
Yeah.
It's followed by, or is it following or followed? Following Elogium, which is not a good episode, but it's memorable for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Slimy Hands episode.
Oh my God, what's going on?
Puberty.
All right. Let's look at number 4.
Number 4. I stick by this one.
Okay.
Natural law.
Yeah. Why?
I mean, I can see what they were trying to do with it, but does anyone remember that one episode where they teed up Seven and Chakotay before they were a thing in Endgame? No.
Yeah, it's too little, too late. The one thing that I will say about this episode, and we got to it a bit in our podcast, Norman, is I feel like it might have been too obvious, but I like the contrast of Chakotay dealing with their situation versus Seven dealing with the situation. And if every guest star is there to serve our main characters, I feel like they effectively gave Seven an arc in this. You know, the episode-centric arc for her is very good. Is it a great episode? No. It's also, this is the one where Tom gets the speeding ticket. Is that right? Is this the one with Mr. Hand?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the Mr. Hand episode. Yeah, so if we did this episode any service, during our recap, I don't think we used the word intensifies enough.
Right.
And then all of our Fast Times at Ridgemont High references, which are totally on point.
That's the only
everything with like Chakotay walks, intensifies. Chakotay looks, intensifies is a bit much. No, it wasn't.
Well, the other thing as well for this episode is, it was very obviously supposed to set up this relationship that was going to develop between these characters. And yet, for a lot of the runtime, they're not actually together. So they didn't even really achieve that very well, because you'd expect them to kind of, if you look at Resolutions, which is one of my favorite episodes ever, they're forced together in a situation that means they have to rely on each other. Whereas this episode, they kind of split up for a lot of the time. So it's kind of not really building that bonding for a minute.
It's like, a discovery for both of them. They're like learning about themselves in this situation, not necessarily learning about each other in this situation.
Yeah.
And by the time they actually do that, they're like, oh my gosh, did we just contaminate this planet? See ya. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Hope you all enjoy the new condos they're putting up outside of your nature preserve.
Are those guys surveyors? Do they have transporter technology? Those guys are fast. Wow.
All right, let's look at number 3.
Number 3. I'm sorry. There is a theme to this list, and I can only apologize.
No, that's fine. Don't be sorry at all.
And I think at this point when writing it, I did acknowledge the fact that there was a theme going on here.
This is the Torture Norman episode of Mission Log. Yeah.
Talking about, I love all of these choices. All of them.
Emanations.
I think the idea of emanations was interesting, because I loved how it started out with Chakotay saying, look, I'm going to flex like being the anthropologist here. Nobody touch anything. We have no idea what this is. This is a graveyard. And Harry's like, what? A graveyard? Then look at it. It has all the stuff. Poof. And I'm going,
yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And it was just an interesting look at, kind of like this out of body look at, okay, if you can see where people are laid to rest from this standpoint, from the bird's eye view, does that mean that they're either laid to rest or are you playing at God? Seeing where they're laid to rest.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I think at this stage in Voyager, was it season 2? 1?
It might be 1. It's 1.
1. Yeah.
Season 1. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a little early for maybe that heavy of a story. And of course, we don't really technically know if Harry was transported, then transported back as Harry, because they pulled him out of time.
Yeah.
Reconstituted him in that particular pod.
Yeah.
So there's somebody in our Discord who actually did all the dead Harry Kims in a mathematical formula. Basically, we got to like, what, 5?
5, I think. Yeah, Brandon's got some more work to do on that chart. So when we get the final, we'll share it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to be a t-shirt also.
So. It will. Yeah. Look, I'll say this about emanations. I think it's a bold idea. And of course, you're killing one of your main cast, of course, only to come back later. We remember that. And we remember all the deaths of Harry Kim. But the episode by itself, like what does the episode actually have to say? Mm-hmm. I'm going to come back to that when we do our favorite or essentials, I should say, because
interesting.
I will come back to that. All right, but let's see. Let's move on to number 2. You forgot it already.
Exactly. Yes, gravity.
Yeah.
Obviously, that episode had a strong pull.
Whoa! But
I think the main thing about this one is it followed Bride of Chaotica. So
yeah,
not very memorable. And then just 2 weeks later, you've got Dark Frontier. So, or 2 episodes later, you've got Dark Frontier. So again, and it's just, I don't know, it's a Tuvok focused episode for the most part. And it is an episode focusing on his struggles with his emotions, but that's kind of been explored before more interestingly.
Yeah.
You've got episodes like Meld and Repression, or you've got episodes like Flashback and Riddles. All those episodes, I just think, explored it so much better than this one. And again, it is interesting to give a Vulcan a love story, but it depends how you approach it. And I just don't feel like we were ever going to end this episode with him going, hey, you know what? Yeah, you come with us. It just wasn't going to happen.
Right. Yeah. I think that's all fair. All right. Well, let's go up to our most forgettable, our ironically titled number 1 entry.
You Nat King Cole.
Yes.
The one that sparked it all.
Yeah.
Unforgettable.
Which I had forgotten.
Never has an episode been more ironically titled.
What particularly is forgettable about this unforgettable episode, Ellie?
All of it. It's just, I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of me that just is a bit bitter because, Chakotay should always be with Janeway. So when this Kellen turns up, go away. But even that, because you think, because I am such a big fan of Janeway and Chakotay as a pairing, so quite often I'm more drawn to, obviously, the Janeway episodes, but also the Chakotay episodes as well. But this one just, it's just not, there's nothing going on. It's it ends, they end in the exact same situation they started in. It's like this whole thing happens and nothing happens at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Thinking about this episode, though, and then thinking about one of my favorite scenes in Endgame, I think it's in the second half of Endgame, is when Chakotay says to Seven, we got to take these chances because there's no guarantee for tomorrow. Does that play into, like, this is Chakotay, just his personality? Like, I'm just going to, no matter what happens with these relationships, I'm just going to take this chance because there's no tomorrow. Is that him? I'm not saying that like the episode's great.
Yeah.
It's just that's very consistent with what he.
Sure.
I guess if you consider his history and the fact that he, made all these decisions and lost his family and now is kind of in that mindset of living for today because you literally don't know what's going to happen, and I'm living proof of that. I have history that tells me you never know what's going to happen, so kind of go for it. It's just a shame that he decided to go for it with the wrong women.
Yeah.
Right.
When the right one was right there.
I mean, I love seeing movie stars come to TV. So I love how Virginia Madsen kind of like elevates the performance.
Absolutely.
And
She's a big star.
fairly certain that Robert Beltran has stated this to be one of his favorite episodes. So it's probably because it was a Chihose episode. I just wondered if you'd be interested to hear the few episodes I wrote as extra possible entries.
Absolutely.
Bonus
Yes.
material.
Yeah.
I mean, here we go, right? Because
Okay.
don't ask me to go into too much detail about these because I literally just scrolled through the seasons and went, I don't remember that one. I don't remember that one. But this top one is one that I did consider putting on the list and I should have, which is Rise. Does anyone remember Rise?
What happened in Rise?
I don't know.
Oh, no,
I've forgotten.
That's the Neelix elevator.
I remember there being
the Neelix elevator, of course. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
That's what
Yep.
Tuvok was throwing people off
Right.
the elevator.
But yeah, that's like the only part of it I remember. I do not remember that episode at all. I also
I took a wild stab at that because I had no idea what this episode was about.
Nope.
Yeah.
I also wrote The Swarm. The title rings a bell.
Yes. Swarming ships attacking.
I got the drone
They
swarm.
were the little tiny ships swarming Voyager.
That's right.
Yeah.
Probably the most I remember about that episode.
Right.
Once Upon a Time, the only thing I remember is the creepy Flotter character.
That's Flotter, right?
Yeah, Flotter.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we remember Flotter. We don't remember the episode.
I think it was Samantha Wildman is on a planet and they don't know if she's alive or not. I think maybe that's why I didn't include that one because I kind of remember.
Nobody knew if Samantha Wildman was alive after the end of season 1. That's why we never saw her. Yeah.
I think Flauta kidnapped her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last one I had written down was Parturition, which I think was Tom and Neelix with a baby of some sort, and that's about as much as I remember.
That's where they buried the hatchet and said, like, hey, you know what? Cass can make her own choices, even though Neelix says, I'll make her choices.
Yeah.
Oh, my. Oh, God.
See, if I wrote this, maybe I need to write 10 more forgettable episodes.
Maybe. I'm upset now that I remember that one after your description.
And do you know what? Interesting you mentioned Neelix there, because when I wrote the random thoughts entry, I did write about the fact that there was this whole subplot of Neelix once again choosing the most inappropriately young female to pursue in this episode. It's like he has a theme. He has his tastes. They might not be the right tastes, but okay.
It's a Tarzan thing. You know?
Oh, boy. All right. Ellie, remarkable work, as always.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing
That was
the original list and your amended list. I think that's great. Yes, we could always revisit what is forgettable in every Star Trek series. Yes.
I would love to quote Captain Kirk to Dr. McCoy in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
Like, as a physician, you would know the danger of reopening old wounds. So.
We just did. We're going to move on here. We're going to just quickly look at 3 comments that came into the Mission Log Discord. I think they're really great as a way to sum up not just Endgame, but Voyager as a whole. And then we will get to our top 3 essentials. But if you'll indulge me, I'll go ahead and share what Nervin wrote. When I first saw Endgame, I thought it was fine, but I had not watched Voyager at that time. I had no connection really to the crew or to what had been going on since I dropped out of watching it. This time around, no, not happy with it. I get that they wanted to bow out on the series and having Janeway's final command being the one that she gave at the end of Caretaker. I get it, but it violated the series' whole point. Regardless of how well you think they did it, Voyager was indeed about the frickin' journey. I'm quoting directly there. 2 crews coming together, learning to trust each other, and learning to call that ship home. They even said it twice in Endgame, to the journey. But nah, it's all about actually getting back to Earth. Should I don the writer's hat, which we do, Norman, from time to time, I would have had Voyager forced to take that transwarp conduit, the one that led back to the Delta Quadrant. Then we could have replayed the opening, only this time it would say Voyager had spent 12 years instead of 23. The future did get changed, yes, so we could have the whole crew still there, but there would still have been that journey, and we could have had Janeway make a speech about that. If they had been very brave, it could have left off going full quantum leap on us and just note that Voyager was still on its journey home. But as it is, no, I wasn't content with what we got this time. It was nice to see Voyager return to Earth, but it felt hollow in the face of the series as a whole. Thoughts, comments, agreement, disagreement?
I said right at the beginning that for me, part of it was watching them go on that journey to get to that final end game, if you like. So I think if they hadn't have got home by the end, that I would have felt they'd sold me short there, because why did I just invest 7 seasons if they didn't get home? However, where I feel like it failed or fell short was that I wanted to see the aftermath of them getting home. That's where I feel like it didn't land. It should not have ended just with them getting to the Alpha Quadrant. It should have then gone on to see those reunions you've been waiting for the whole time, to see what Starfleet are going to do about it. Are you going to get punished for breaking the Prime Directive however many times? That's where I feel like it let itself down a little bit.
Yeah. Norman?
That's part of like the overall conversation I think that we've been having on Discord. There are people that obviously are on board with, Ellie, how you feel, and getting there, at least getting home, and then maybe kind of like retconning or headcanoning the stories moving forward. And then there's, I think one of the things that has been a point of contention, trying to reconcile how Janeway, with the 16 plus 10 years, would have turned into who she was as the Admiral. Mm-hmm. Because John and I have on various occasions said, this is the Janeway we love. Mm-hmm. And then when she gets a little out of character, making some questionable choices, she returns to form, and we say, this is the Janeway we love. The Admiral was not the Janeway we love, not by far.
Right.
But it did play in a nice contrasty way to showing the Janeway of the 7-year past versus the Janeway that becomes the embittered Admiral. I think we needed to see somewhere along the line how that happened. Like whether it was losing 7, maybe by her command. Maybe it was, letting Tuvok go too long without treatment. So, or maybe she's like, you know what? I thought I was going to get better support from Starfleet when I got home. There's a little bit there, and I'm not sure if have been any stories or novels or, short fiction or fan fiction that has addressed that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is. Have you seen how many fan fictions there are? I'm sure
fan fiction for
someone's covered it.
Yeah. That's a completely other
right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's the biggest crime of the episode, is not allowing us to spend time with the crew after we get back, but spending so much time on this alternate history, which is interesting stuff. But please, let's be done with that so we can actually follow the crew that we're invested in here.
Exactly.
We'll move on really quickly because I love this comment from Mike Mullen, friend of the show, director of Star Trek Lower Decks. And he says, the scenes that really got to me in Endgame were at the end, in which Tom has to leave B'Elanna in sickbay and then hears their baby's cries over the intercom. It took me right back to the day my son was born and all the emotions of that moment. I didn't have to leave the delivery room to go fly a starship through a transwarp hub, but I still understand what Tom was feeling. That, combined with the very subtle teary eyes of everyone as they made it home, really connected with me. For me, Voyager is a show with fascinating ideas and bold character themes. Seven, the Doctor, and Janeway have stood the test of time, and unlike a lot of discussion here, I'm less inclined to view it from the perspective of paths not taken. Voyager pushed the boundaries of weirdness, took too many opportunities to break characters out of their normal lives, and benefited from the TNG movie era's upgrades to production values, but it wasn't a show that usually brought tears to my eyes. With this last episode, it did. So I'm glad that resonated from Mike. All very good points. By the way, side note, and I don't think we got into this in our discussion in Endgame, but the scene of Harry getting teary-eyed was actually something he shot in reaction to arriving home, not in reaction to Tom and B'Elanna's baby. And then the editors switched it. Garrett was not happy with that. So, yeah, a lot of backstory there. But yeah, I mean, see, I like that. I like that both Mike and Nervin take away different feelings from the end of this.
I think the thing about this as well, and I guess part of it for me is about the journey. That's what I was always invested in. But I also think, and I guess it's the same for all of Star Trek to an extent, but really with this one is the theme of the found family. And I think that's probably what really hits in this final episode, when you start to see two characters who were so opposed to each other at the beginning, who have come together and there's now new life. And that's maybe something else that was lacking a little bit in terms of exploration in Voyager. You don't want it to turn into some sappy romance, but considering they were forced into this situation where there was nobody else around, it's kind of surprising you only ended up with one couple by the end, and well, two babies born, but technically one baby born. Like, I just feel like
two.
that there was, it just seemed a little bit like, well, yeah, that one. See, it doesn't even stick in my brain. Like, right. 7 inch photos. Like, yes, it was. Yeah, I feel like there are a few elements that could have been explored further, whether that's relationships that developed once they returned home, or just, I don't know. But yeah, I can definitely feel that the emotional response to that is a lot to do with the characters and the relationships, not necessarily that they got home.
Yeah. Norman, any thoughts there? You want to move on to our next email?
I do like the two different contrasting opinions, because I understand what Nevern is saying. Because we were talking about the consistency of the character, especially Janeway, from Caretaker to Endgame, and then of course what we were talking about in terms of what changed Janeway in specific. There's somebody said this, I think, in Discord, where it would have been really interesting to have Tom like stand on the bridge and basically open all hailing frequencies so that his father could hear a baby cry, on the station. And then he'd say, like, what is that? And then Tom would say, like, that's your granddaughter. That's why we had, the drama's right there. Exactly. It's right there. But, and then Tom there was no acknowledgement that Admiral Pierce actually saw him. So I think that we were missing, and it's something that, Star Trek, when it's done well, it's done really well, is making that human connection, right? Because with all the technology and with all the techno-babble and the science fiction stuff, if you don't have these moments of human interaction and connectivity, then we lose our investment, in the story.
Yeah.
I think that when you see things like the Pathfinder project and you see them connect for the first time, you're like, oh my God, they're there. Even though they're not there, they're there. Mm-hmm. They're close enough. They're subspace close. So that would have been really interesting. But no, I think that's I'm not going to second guess the writers. I mean, they could have gone to a third pass, fourth pass. I don't think they had that opportunity. I think that ultimately we're just going to have to take away what we need to take away, from something like this. It doesn't invalidate any of the 7 years or 7 seasons of what you loved, right? And it's rare that you get a really, really good season finale if you're any other show aside from MASH. Okay, so
that's true. Yeah,
it's really tough to follow that season finale, of course, unless you're Babylon 5. So that's just me.
Yeah,
I have to do that. Me. I do have one last thing to read.
Yeah.
So we have a member of our Discord, his name's Pax Federatica, who actually focuses a lot of his responses on Harry Kim. He wrote, even freaking Chakotay never got an on-screen hug from Janeway, at least not until Prodigy. Nor did Neelix when he left Voyager a couple of episodes back.
Right.
Tuvok has been on the receiving end of Janeway's affections on a few occasions and earlier in Endgame, but he's her oldest friend. So that's to be expected. And of course, we've seen Janeway give out emergency hugs, quote unquote, to various characters as well. This is to Harry Kim, this may be the closest she's ever come to seeking one out herself. And she's that close to Harry Kim, and that she chose Harry Kim for it is a seemingly perfect capstone for their coded mother-son relationship that I'm so fond of. Of all such arcs among the main Voyager characters, Janeway Kim was the one in most need of more attention than it got from the writers, especially during the later seasons. This is a lovely moment in its own right, but it wasn't earned, at least not nearly as well as it could have been over the course of the series. Late series Harry may no longer need Janeway as a surrogate mother figure, but what of the reverse? As I've pointed out previously, by foregoing any romance or life partnership as captain, be it with Chakotay or anyone else, Janeway has also effectively foregone conventional family life and motherhood. Parents don't stop being parents or stop loving their children after those children have grown up, and it has undoubtedly occurred to Janeway that Harry may be the closest thing she'll ever have to a son of her own. How has that influenced their relationship? How should it have? Put more succinctly, how did Janeway and Kim get to that hug? And I have a small caveat for myself because I do this. And then I said, so, as I said in our Discord after dark discussion on Endgame, so I guess everyone was okay with the inside joke that Captain Harry Kim will cease to exist if Janeway is successful. Is that okay with everyone?
Again, just stabbed. That's just with the knife. Oh. Hey, Pax, your words definitely have resonance here. I wish you could see Ellie's response to that because you are fully on board, yes?
It was the mention of, what Janeway sacrificed, because I think that's something, again, that I would like to have seen explored more. There were opportunities for it that weren't taken. And, not just the sacrifice of a relationship, but what that also entails. Motherhood in particular is something that I think people don't... It kind of got forgotten about towards the end. We had one episode that kind of focused on it with Q, and then it kind of didn't really become a thing. Then we had that Borg baby and that really touching moment where she was holding the baby, and I really thought something could have been taken from that. There could have been a really lovely storyline taken from that. That baby was never seen again. But so yeah, I think that's, again, why is Janeway my favorite character? Because she is this strong woman who's also got so much vulnerability and has sacrificed so much. And I like seeing those softer sides, those softer moments where you realize that she doesn't let anyone else see, and she still has to plow through, and she still has to get on with her day, and she still has all these people to be responsible for. And inside, she's lost arguably more than everybody else on the crew.
All right. In our last remaining minutes here, we're going to very quickly go through our essential episodes. Now, Norman, Ellie, I've prepped the two of you to say that these are not necessarily favorites. They're not necessarily best, but they're what you consider to be essential viewing, I guess, sort of to get Voyager. So maybe you're just introducing the show to somebody. Maybe you're reintroducing Voyager to yourself. Ooh, how do I acclimate to what this show is all about? What really kind of encapsulates Voyager, or maybe the overall Star Trek ethos here. So we're going to go 3, 2, 1. So Norman, I'll ask you to read your first, i.e. your last pick for Essential.
So my third pick for Essential viewing would be Season 7, Episode 11, Lineage. Ooh. I absolutely loved that episode. And I think that if I watched Voyager when it was originally aired, my choice would be different. But as Star Trek does, it relates to who you are at this time. And I think watching Lineage, watching B'Elanna strip out the culture and the racial features of her side of their daughter, her and Tom's daughter, and seeing just this perfect blonde-haired, blue-eyed child, thinking that would make Tom happy, broke my heart. Absolutely broke my heart. Like, this is what you think Tom is going to be happy with. And Tom said, no, I want our daughter to be our daughter. And another line that really stuck with me, she said that when you're like me and the entire ship looks like you, it's very difficult seeing those eyes look back at you. That is very prevalent today, if it's ever have been. So I think that as a story, it withstands the test of time. It hits exactly what our mission statement is. And I thought Roxanne was painfully awesome in terms of just the sheer amount of guilt that was behind her eyes, the sacrifices she thinks she needed to make, just inhabiting what she thinks would make her husband happy, but not letting herself and her culture be happy.
That's a great choice. And what an interesting way to frame it. Ellie.
Well, I now feel like I didn't go quite so deep, I'm afraid.
You're not required to.
I also gave myself a few things that I was like, you can't do that. So I purposely didn't pick Caretaker or Endgame because I didn't want to just be like, the beginning one and the end one.
Right.
Wanted to be a bit different.
Fair. And by the way, I think we all have runners up here. I think we all have honorable mentions, which we'll get to. But yes.
I've gone with Prime Factors, season 1.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a rogue one there because I think it's the first episode where you really see them being challenged when they are offered a way home, and the only thing stopping them, apart from the fact that it ends up not working, is their own principles. And that's the first time we really see that. Early on. The only other time we've really seen them with an opportunity to get home that falls through before that is Eye of the Needle, which doesn't work for different reasons. But this, for all intents and purposes, until they realize it doesn't work right at the very end, the only thing stopping them from actually getting something that's going to help them get home is sticking to the prime directive of the planet and their own prime directive. And the challenge that Janeway faces, she's really conflicted in what to do. I think it's also you start to see the bonding happening between the Marquis and the Federation crew. That's something that maybe got kind of glossed over a little bit too soon, but in the early days, it was nice to see them starting to gel. In Janeway even notes the crews are finally mingling and merging. I think it's really interesting that of all the characters to have disobeyed the orders, it was Tuvok and what that meant and why he did it. And I think if I was going to introduce someone to Voyager, this is an episode where I'd say this is what it's about. Because later on, I think things shift from, obviously the focus is always to get home, but later on the stories kind of shift more to how can we defeat the Borg and more kind of grand things. Whereas I think this is a really good episode to kind of go, this is their primary goal, is to get home. And they're not necessarily always facing these really aggressive aliens. Sometimes their biggest enemy is themselves.
Wow. I love how you framed that episode and gave it some real thought and depth, because for the last several years, Norman and I have only referred to that as the weird pleasure planet. So,
does this give you pleasure?
Right. So that gives me a whole new way to look at it now. But so interesting, though, that you also put it into context of other season 1 episodes, because I picked Eye of the Needle. You mentioned it. My name. Yeah. I think that is such an interesting episode. First of all, great performance by Vaughn Armstrong, and he's just always welcome to see in an episode of Star Trek. But I love this taste that they get of, but wait, we're not completely cut off, and maybe, just maybe, we get to have a conversation with the Alpha Quadrant again. And I love the timey-wiminess of it all. I love that kind of being stripped away from them, that, no, they have to face the reality of where they are. It also kind of reinforces the context of what's happening or what has happened elsewhere and where they are now. So I just think it's a nice, very Star Trek-y way to put this in context. But now I want to go back and rewatch Prime Factors because, a bit related there. Okay, Norman, we'll come back to you for your number 2 pick.
Well, this is a heavy one. So number 2 pick for the Essential is Tuvix.
Ooh, controversial.
Yes. All right.
And I mean, aside from what everyone has said about Tuvix, what I love about this episode is Janeway has to make a choice. And it's the Kobayashi Maru, where I said in our Endgame coverage that the Kobayashi Maru was sidelined, based on what Janeway was able to do with time travel. She didn't have that in this episode. She couldn't go back to that planet and save Tuvok and Neelix from having that transporter accident. So it also challenges the Prime Directive and the Starfleet Code in terms of seeking out new life.
Mm-hmm.
Tuvix is new life that came from space
Mm-hmm.
and exploration, everything that the Federation stands for. And they started to accept that until they didn't. The scene where, Tuvix was pleading for anyone to stand by him on the bridge and no one looked down. It was very Judeo-Christian. Is anyone going to stand by me when I'm, on the cross, for crucifixion? No one's standing by me. The only person who stood by Tuvix was the doctor because, he had an oath that he couldn't break, the do no harm oath, which he did cite as the reason why he did not do the procedure to Janeway. So there's a lot, and just in terms of the moral implication, it's like, again, it's not a right or wrong thing. Some people say, yes, she had every right to do it. And some people say she's a murderer. But it's how she lives with herself after the decision. Yeah. Right. And that's the Kobayashi Maru. It's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of character. And how do you live with that moving forward? Could Tuvix have been the one that helped them get home? Maybe. You'll never know. But she knows that she's stronger as a character, as a person, with Neelix and Tuvok in their individual roles as loved ones, as found family. But are you willing to not give Tuvix the chance to be able to win you over as well? So that's something that's just like, wow. I mean, how do you choose? It's like Sophie's Choice. How do you choose? Right. And I think that, the performances, especially, I don't remember his name, but the actor who played Tuvix was
unbelievable.
Phenomenal.
So good.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with my second.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
Ellie?
Mm-hmm. My second choice is Equinox.
Ooh.
I'm going to count two-parters as
okay. Yeah. Fair.
I kind of follows on from why I chose Prime Factors, but more to the extreme, where Prime Factors was the first kind of realization of, it's your principles that stop you from getting home, but you have your morals and your principles. Equinox is a really extreme examination of, here's someone who has followed the rules and the principles, here's someone who hasn't. And that conflict of what's the right decision to make as a captain. I think there's so many layers to Equinox. It pushes Janeway to maybe do some things she wouldn't normally do. It asks that question of what is your limit and how far will you go? I think it was really interesting obviously for a show where there's no other Starfleet characters, there's no other Federation characters, you're a little bit limited. How do you keep it still relevant to the wider Star Trek franchise and world? This was a really good example of that. It might be a bit random that another Starfleet ship just happens to show up, but it means that Janeway all of a sudden isn't the only commanding voice there. And there's actual conflict there because someone actually is there who can challenge her, who wasn't there before, and who is right and who is wrong. And when people are starving and your responsibility is to look after your crew, what do you do? So I think as an episode, as a story, it elevates that question of when do principles go out the window. To the extreme, and I think it was great.
They go out the window with that poor ensign that Janeway is going to put in the airlock. That's when they go out the window.
Yeah,
there's a lot of space murder in that episode.
30 years too soon.
Yeah. All right. Well done. Okay. My number 2 pick, this is a bit of a dark horse choice, I admit. But Norman, this goes back to something that you always say, which is that these episodes take on different meanings when you watch it one time and watch it another time in your life, and you put into a new context. So my choice is Mortal Coil. And I think it is exemplary of one of the best Star Trek episodes that exists because of its deeply humanistic look at this existential crisis that one of our beloved crew has reached. It is dark. It is heavy. It is a lot to deal with. It does not have the, happy ending, slap on the back, roll credits that we would expect. But as I said in our discussion about it, to me, that is then the starting point for somebody to be given the opportunity to restart their lives with a fresh perspective and the ability to give themselves meaning instead of trying to find meaning elsewhere. And I always liked that episode for those reasons. I always liked it because it does go there in a really compelling place. Ellie, you had picked Emanations earlier on as one of your forgettable episodes. It's only memorable because we kill Harry and then bring him back, right? And there's not the contemplation about what that means. Mortal Coil actually gives us the contemplation of what that means. But again, it allows the character the ability to find meaning. And I think that's absolutely critical in the way that we should view these characters in the way that we make them relate to ourselves. So, and just kind of side personal note, being able to revisit that episode shortly after losing my father and being able to talk about it in that context meant a lot to me to be able to do that with you, Norman, on our show. It just completely reshaped my approach to that. So that will always be one that I recommend. I think it's Star Trek at its sort of gentle humanist best, even though it is heavy, but can be. That's all right. All right. Let's go with we're here at our number one, right? All right. So Norman, your most essential Voyager.
Yeah, it's funny. Before I jump into that, so I have one episode per season that I consider essential, and for season 4, it's Mortal Coil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. But it's not. But it was so hard to rank this list. Yeah. But very much in the same way that you were talking about Mortal Coil, I'm going to go with season 6. This is my top. Season 6, episode 14, Memorial. That episode blew me away.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that I, ad nauseum described that to fact when we did our review. See, what I loved about Memorial and what I think is why I think is essential viewing for Voyager, I'm not going to say that it's just TOS. It's like it combines all of the greatest traditions of Star Trek in one episode, because it starts off with a little bit of a whodunit, with all of the 4 characters that we rarely ever get to see travel together. I think it's the first time we saw Tom, Harry, Chakotay, and Neelix all together.
Yeah.
But they're all plagued by the same memory and react differently. They react to their quote unquote strengths towards that memory. Neelix tries to be the freedom fighter. Tom, he hides in, trying to fix something. Chakotay tries to be, he tries to be more compassionate. So every single character that absorbed the memory from the tower in Memorial, they're trying to reconcile why this happened to them and why they're all reacting differently. But I think that in the end, the round table sequence for every major character and having every one of them, I didn't skip one, every single one of them say, should we or shouldn't we allow this technology to affect other people or passersby? Because I really loved what Chakotay had to say. It's like, what gives somebody the right to do this to us? And then Janeway's like, well, they need to be preserved. And, Tom's like, I get that, but why does it have to be us? Who gave them the ability to say, hey, you know what? Here are our violent memories. Take them. Right? Because we went all the way to, okay, imagine if this, and here's a trigger warning. Imagine if this memorial was Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Right? Or any of these great tragic, violent moments of history. And then these people need to be remembered. The Holocaust needs to be remembered. So here's a technology. And if you're on a ship passing by, on an airplane, it directly feeds into your brain.
Yeah.
And now it's stuck with you because they are stuck with those memories, right? They're not erasable.
Yeah.
They're there. So somebody would be like, I wasn't even there. I wasn't even born. I didn't even take part of that war, right? But I have to harbor someone's memory. But if you don't, then history is lost.
Yeah.
So what do? Right? Do you respect that? Or you say, like, it's not my problem? I think Tom even said, it's like, dude, it's not my problem. I wasn't even there. So there's all of this, just being weighed and measured. And some of the crew were found wanting, and some were willing to take the burden.
Yeah.
And I like that they challenge each other and say, like, you know what? In the end, Janeway has to make the choice. But I think she respected everyone in the round table for their opinion. And that, for me, is always, always traditional Star Trek.
All right. Ellie?
I've gone slightly different.
That's why you're here.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. And you'll get it as soon as I say it, because my number one is Counterpoint.
Ooh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Specifically for Voyager and what Voyager was trying to achieve with the first female captain, I think of all the episodes, this one really explores not just Janeway as a character, but also the expectations and maybe wrong expectations that came from the audience at the time, particularly a male audience at the time, on what this female captain would act like, and flipping it on its head to completely go, well, you underestimated her. And it's kind of framed in a story, but it also can be applied to the wider audience that, here's a female captain who at first seems very strong and you're not going to beat me, who seems to have her walls taken down by the charm of this man. And she seems to be doing what I think, the stereotypical misogynistic viewpoint at the time would be that well, as soon as a man turns up and shows her some attention, she lets her guard down and gets played. For it to be completely flipped on its head, and for her to be actually wise enough and clever enough to realize that I know that's what you're thinking, and I'm going to use that to play you. And it's this kind of double bluff. Everyone's playing everyone. It's so clever. And it's just, I think Kate's performance in the episode is brilliant. I think the way that, we see this softer side to her, and you question the whole way through what's going on here. Who is playing who? Has she really been that naive as to fall in love with this man who was trying to do awful things not 2 days ago? I just think it's a really good examination of Janeway as a character, of trying to showcase what Voyager was trying to prove with having this female character, this strong woman in a position of power that isn't vulnerable to the fluttering eyes of men. Like there's so many layers to it, but ultimately, if you want to know what Voyager is trying to prove with the first female captain, this is the episode to watch.
I love that. I would have rewatched Counterpoint. I remember quite liking that. Yeah, Norman?
I remember the dialogue was very clever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of double entendre, a lot of slyness to it, and a lot of, a lot of reversal, in terms of intent. And I was like, and I don't remember the actor's name, but yes, like the scenes with Janeway and I guess he's kind of like the captain of this particular group. Very good scenes together.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so look, I feel like we can't wrap up Voyager, at least I can't, without acknowledging 7 of 9, because to me, Spock and 7 of 9, they are the exemplars of Star Trek doing what it does best, which is examine the human condition. One of the most complex, well thought out, most satisfying characters when it comes to an arc over the course of an entire series. And of course goes beyond that, because we've got books, we've got her return in Picard, we have all this remaining story. But even just here in these 4 seasons of Voyager, we get so much out of 7 of 9, and in particular Jerry's performances, which are just, she just knocks that out of the park every time. So there are a lot of ways to go here. I could pick a favorite like Someone to Watch Over Me. I could pick a favorite like The Raven. I could pick a favorite like Human Error. I could pick another very complex, controversial episode like The Gift, which really made us question, well, wait, who has the right here to tell her what to do and how she should be? And then we see her grow into that. But I picked Imperfection because that is a story about identity and sacrifice and finding one's role. And again, Jerry is just marvelous in it. So if we're looking for episodes that really show her arc, which then by extension show, again, Star Trek's humanistic view and its empathy toward its own characters, I think that's a great one to look at.
We were big time, like, really impressed with season 7.
Yeah. Until we weren't. but there's a lot of there's a lot of great stuff in season 7. I will mention, so I had some honorable mentions. These are episodes that didn't make it to my essentials list, and you two might have some as well. Dark horse candidate here, really out of left field, Good Shepherd. Because we're talking about Janeway as a leader and sort of re-engaging with her crew and trying to be the ideal of her own perception. Who am I as a leader? How do I lift my people up? Awfully good episode. I would also add to that Living Witness, just because it's cool and Bob is great in it. It's very thoughtful. It is a great way to examine how we look at history and how we frame the stories that we tell. And then Norman, right there with you, brother, Tuvix, I feel like that really belongs on an essentials list. How about either of you, any runners up and any that you were just so you're just racking your brain, oh, do I put this on the list?
I did have a couple that I was like, I'm not sure. First of all, I had Worst Case Scenario.
Oh.
Because it was an episode that came a little bit later after we had the crew integration that once again reminded us that these are two different crews and there very much is the possibility of things happening and clashings happening. Obviously, we then had the Seska element as well. But just as a precaution, of course, Tuvok is going to think up scenarios where this could happen, which then kind of led to, I want to say it's Repression. I was trying to remember the names of all the episodes, which was another example of that happening kind of in real time. I did consider putting Threshold on the list.
Yeah.
I did.
Absolutely.
And I think, if you take out that last moment where we get lizard babies, it is a very good episode. And again, once again, it's an examination of how far will they go to get home. They're going to push boundaries and potentially harm themselves because that's how desperate they are to find a way home. So that was close to being on the list as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback on Ellie's choice for Threshold. And the reason why, it's a personal guilty pleasure. That's a personal guilty pleasure pick, right? But at the same time, though, Shar, our sister Shar, for Mission Log, she encouraged me to send my quote-unquote paper, my thesis paper, on why I think Threshold is the best episode of Voyager of all time. She encouraged me to send it to Dr. Aaron McDonald to talk about quantum theory.
Yeah.
Because what Tom does, he enters basically at warp 10, he enters quantum space. So what he says in the episode is like, I was everywhere. He literally could see the path home because when you're in quantum space, you exist simultaneously with every molecule that exists ever and every molecule that exists ever in time because it breaks every dimension of time, space, and energy, right? Ellie, we're talking, like very much Doctor Who TARDIS type stuff, minus Omega's black hole theory. So that's why I felt with that, it was so glossed over, which is too bad because someone said that, why did he turn into a lizard? The lizards, it's a proto-human. Like, no. He reached the final stage of humanity on the other side of the spectrum. That's how far he went. Right. So I sent all this to Aaron McDonald. I don't think I ever response.
I'm shocked.
But I spent, minutes on that. Minutes. But I love it because it's weird and it's fun. For Essential Voyager episodes, I was there again, Mortal Coil.
Yeah.
I love Real Life.
Oh, thank you for mentioning that because I was going to say it and then I forgot the title. So I was like, I won't say it.
It's so good. It's so yeah.
And when it comes to like, there's a theme with a lot of my picks where it comes to consequence, right? And you have to live with the consequences. And that's the Doctor. The Doctor had basically the perfect family because he programmed the perfect family. And when B'Elanna goes in there and tinkers with it and says, no, that's not how it works. And then the scene at the end with his daughter who got hurt in the game and it's not operable. And, you know, he's understanding what's happening. It's just, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Picardo in that episode is perfect.
Rip your heart out.
And that's the kind of storytelling I like. I really do love intimate character-driven stories because the science fiction always works around it. And you don't have to lean on it in order to tell the right story. That doesn't always work in the reverse, but it always works when you have a really good character, a really good motivation, a twist, and then a resolution. And then where do you go from there? So I think that with real life and what he learned and what we learned as the audience, it's just so emotionally connective that again is part of the better tradition of Star Trek storytelling when it's done right. It was a tie for this. It was season 3. It was real life versus kind of like the opposite. It's Distant Origin.
I love that episode. Yes,
Distant Origin was
and
So Doctor Who coded that episode.
That ship was huge, and we never get to see him again.
I know, but just throwing the science back at our face. Yes, yeah,
that thing was a space.
Oh, I love it.
I've just thought of one as well. Sacred Ground. Sacred Ground.
Oh,
the examination of
Janeway thing, right?
Yeah, the spiritual versus the scientific, and what's the answer? And when she kind of gets the answer, the scientific answer, she's not satisfied with that answer. And I really love that. As a scientist, she has this preconceived notion of what things are going to be, and she kind of opens herself up to other possibilities.
So good. All right. Well, look, we could keep going on and on and on. Ellie, we have kept you way too late. I apologize for that. Mission log. Admittedly, we are taking some time off. We have holidays in front of us, but we will have some special supplemental episodes coming your way before too long. So stay patient with us. Always stay connected with us at missionlogpodcast.com, at facebook.com/missionlogpod. You can find us on Threads, find us on Instagram at Roddenberry Podcasts, of course. And we hope to see you at patreon.com/missionlog to join our Discord, where there is 24/7 chat, live events almost every day of the week. So, Ellie, where can people reach you if they're looking for you?
I'm on all the social media platforms. Search Ellie Littlechild, and obviously TrekCulture as well over on YouTube. We have videos out almost daily, so you might see me, you might see Sean, but it's potluck.
We love that guy, Sean. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, and Norman, I guess that's it until the next time when we do a little more retrospective look at Voyager.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.